amp number 1, believe it or not, for my friend Mr. Black. This is a 2 driving 4 driving 16 and a 32 pill jumbo enclosure with oversized heat sinks. I received a phone call from my friend Mr. Black one day. Of course, I didn't know he was going to be my friend, nor did I know that I was going to be commissioned by the end of that phone call to take on this build. I was driving tow truck at the time, and he says to me, "Hey man, I'm a big fan of everything you do, and I want you to build me an amplifier." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, okay, sure." He goes, "I want a 2 driving 4 driving 16 and a jumbo cabinet." And I said, "Cool." And he goes, "Hey man, what's your PayPal address, you know?" So I told him, and I said, "It's gonna be a big number, because at that time this was a relatively large box to me." And so I shot him the number, and he's like, "Okay, cool." He goes, "Hey man, I gotta go. They're calling in an air attack on me right now. I'll call you back in a week or so. Check your PayPal later today." Later on in the day, bing, the money showed up. I was like, all right. So didn't know who this guy was. Never had met him before in my life. And he just randomly sent me a giant wad of money. Going on in our relationship, I found out that that was normal. He liked to just give money away. He liked spending money on amp equipment and radio stuff. So, a couple months went by, and he goes, "Look, I'm out of town for like 3 months at a whack, and then about every third month I come back to the United States, and I do my business." He goes, "I'm going to come see you." And he goes, "I'd really appreciate it if we could build it while I'm there." I was like, "Oh, okay." Remember, this is way back in the beginning. I built this in 2014. I know this because I signed it and dated it and put a date on it. This is paint, you guys. This isn't like vinyl or nothing. I painted this, airbrushed the front of it. This video has had a kajabillion views on it, the build of this box. I think I shot it on this cell phone? No. Yeah. Galaxy S3 is the phone that I shot the video on. This phone actually right here. Yeah. Anywho, now I'm sitting here talking to a Sony FS5 4K. Man, times have changed. This has never had one pill blown up in it, and honest to God, I think maybe he talked on this thing more. There's a YouTube video of me and him sitting in his truck when I went into Texas in 2015 to install this thing. God, man, it's been 8 years, 9 years, 8 years, 8 years. Of us talking to Motormouth Mall. I think we're on channel 11 or something. I don't remember. Everybody didn't believe, "Oh, that box, there's no way it does 4,500 watts or whatever." I bet you we'll see 42 out of it today on arguably the most trusted RF measuring workbench on the Interboob. Yeah. Old school thinking. A lot of old school thinking in here. It's got really super duper high flow fans in it. It's got the big wide fin heat sink in it. And it's got heat sink that goes from here to here. Big hunks of heat sink. Over here is a 2 pill. Over here is an 8 pill section, and a 4 pill. Has literally twice the amount of heat sink underneath it than it would ever need, which means you could really talk on this for a great deal of time. I took and I trimmed the cabinet back on the back, shorten up the board, and you'll see that the air ingress, the ingress of the air, where the air can go and make the turn, the gap up here is huge. And I did that to maximize the amount of airflow that we could get through this cabinet. In this being a like brand new pristine on the inside, it is not. It's got a couple little scuffs and buffs to it, but for the most part, this thing is a, I'd say it's a 9 on a scale out of 9 to 10, or 1 to 10. 1 being something that is made in a Tupperware container with a heat sink hanging out of the bottom of it. The Tupperware container is discolored from, you know, microwave and spaghetti and shit in it. To 10 being something we just produced 2 minutes ago. This is about a 9. It has all matching transistors in it. It's a 22 pill box. 20 of those transistors are all matching. It's two 2290s driving, well, 2879s. Let's change your position here and let's pop this open and take a look on the inside. So before I take the lid off, let's go ahead and let's run the amp. There is no on-off switch on this box. This is a fully remote controlled amplifier. On-off switch, and then it's got an auxiliary port that's wired in with, it's all 4-pin jack, of course. That's wired in so you can do a voltmeter, internal voltmetering on the inside of the box. The reason I want to run the fans is because I wanted you guys to see exactly how loud it is. It's not that bad taking into account the super mega high flow fans. I have a friend of mine, customer, friend, that came here the other day and he wanted me to put giant fans in like these. These are the big JMCs. He wanted me to put these on his 24 pill. I said, we can. It's just going to make your amp louder and it's not going to allow any more airflow. He goes, why not? And I said, well, because on his 24 pill cabinet, it's got the fine fin heat sinks up here in the front, and the board, there's about a finger's width worth of gap up here at the front between the edge of the board and the front panel of the amp. That actually dictates a lot in how much air can move through here. And then on top of that, it's a standard 24 pill enclosure, small, not a jumbo. On top of that, there's a bunch of shit that's up here, and it's just going to cavitate. There's not going to be enough, can't get enough airflow through it. Let's see here. So down here, like I said, it's got the super wide flow fins on it. And then this does have a physical block back in here to help direct even more air through the heat sinks. But the heat sinks run from here all the way to here on the amp. Look at how wide the heatsink bed is. That's a ton of metal mass for that amount of transistors. 10. Over there's 12. It's got copper spreader throughout. So this has got 200,000. There's literally a copper sheet that is in here that goes from edge to edge on the heatsink. And the transistors are screwed to that spreader. And then the spreader is all covered with thermal compound, and it's in turn screwed and bolted to the heatsink. Why do we do that? Well, we do that because the copper is really good at sinking heat. Translation, it's really good at moving heat around. Aluminum is really good at getting rid of heat, otherwise transferring it to the atmosphere. They're close. Copper edges out over aluminum just a little bit in its ability to move heat. So we utilize it instead of putting all the pressure down on a couple of these fins. We utilize the copper to spread the heat out, hence the term spreader, to go across multiple fins. And I built this on 7/26 of 2000 or 9/26 of 2014. It says so right there. Otherwise, I'd have no clue. I wouldn't remember it. I had to go look at the YouTube video. It's got an internal quarter farad bank of capacitance. This predates the super caps. You know, these little badass bastards. That's 500 farads worth of storage in that little cap that I'm holding with 2 fingers. And yeah, it's got a quarter of 1 farad, which is enough to help keep the fans turning relatively stable for the most part. It's got overclocked on the number of wires feeding the 2 and the 4 pill section, and number of over too many wires. I use more than what's absolutely necessary. For the 16 pill section, 5 watt resistors throughout. Of course, this predates my output transformers, which are taller, and anyhow, it's got the old school mirror board technology in it, which we don't need since I modified my transformers. 2 tuning tubes, one on the input of the 4 pill, or on the input of the 16 pill, and one on the output of the 16 pill. Standard 4-port combiner, 5 amp relay to control the fans. These big old JMC fans that pull, they pull an amp a piece, or 0.8 of an amp a piece. So 1.6 amps, 1.6 amps, and 1.6 amps. Okay, so 2.4, it's right at what this can carry. We're utilizing both sides of the relay over here. So it's a total of 10 amps. This is your committed isolated voltmeter lead that runs directly off the back of the bus. It goes to this top right pin, which would be pin 1. Yeah, pin 1 or no, pin 4. Then the other side is ground. This is for your voltmeter at the meter setup. And then, of course, our remote box. The way he had this orientated in his truck is this sat behind the passenger seat, and it faced away from him. And I put a blue LED on the back of it that would flood out into the cab so he could see if it was on. He wanted that. I'm like, dude, but the fans, you'll know it's running from the fans. He goes, no, I want to have an LED to it. So, okay. This is a good little amp. This thing runs. I mean, it really, really gets with it. This is a 35 watt, 40 watt max drive box. That's peak power, by the way. It's not Bird. That's 35 watts peak into this thing. And it will make everything of about 4,200 volts if you can keep the voltage up. It pulls about 600 amps to do that job. And it is a king at stripping the heat. It's got dual, which I'm not a big fan of these. Dual 110 amp clips, so 300 amps on the positive side, which is technically too small, and 300 amps on the ground side. The way he overcame that is his Anderson clips were about 6 inches from his battery. So blink blink right to the box, very little loss. I will be providing with this 2 twist lock welding leads, specifically these leads here. You'll have to purchase the recipient ends. These are the actual ends that you would need to carry enough current to run this mojo. Straight up. Or go to dual 300 amp plugs. So what I mean by dual is we're utilizing both sides of the Anderson clip for just the positive lead, and then we have another one for the ground. Yeah. Okay. Let's run over here. It's a 1,000 watt slug. It's in 5X, 1,000 watt slug in average, which we're going to bury. A 5 watt slug in reverse back from the Bird 10,000 watt dumbing load. And up here, we're going to use a 5 watt slug in reverse between the bench 2950 and the BBI built 2x4x16. Okay. So first, let's show you radio drive. Hello, 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. That's what about 25 watts looks like going into a 5,000 watt setup. Pass through, hello. Non-existent. Back down here, we'll turn the amp on. Hello. Making 41 to 4,200 watts peak power. We're burying that 1,000 watt slug in the corner. We're eking past that 0 on the 40. Let's go over here. Let's look at our current draw. I gotta push the wire down so you guys can see it. 610 to 590-ish amps worth of draw. And I know these power wires are too small because I can feel, or not power wires, but the plugs, I can feel them humming. I was pinning this down, and you can feel the current flowing. I mean, it flat out runs. I mean, this box flat out runs. It's getting over there. It's doing what it's supposed to do. Let's see here. Input tune. Let's go up here real quick. Okay. So maybe 3/10 of a watt. There's 3 hash marks. 3/10 of a watt of input reflect. I can live with that and smile. The only question I got is, where did all my labels go? Because I put BBI, and then that would have been Mr. Black, and then BBI and Mr. Black, and BBI, Mr. Black, and BBI, Mr. Black, BBI, Mr. Black, BBI. So the only zip tie logo that's left, zip tie logo tag, is that one there. Don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Now, guys, I got to tell you, this is the last one of these I've got. I'm done. This is, I've told the family and everybody that's all concerned. This amp goes away, and I am not, there's nothing more left to sell. I have this amplifier here, which I'm going to keep. I have sold off every single amplifier that was given to me to get rid of, except for the 3-made 2-pill bass. I don't know why anybody doesn't want to buy that. It's a good little box. It's got Toshibas in it. This amplifier here, I built for him as a birthday present, surprise. And it caused a lot of drama because at the time he was stationed in Iraq. Yes, it was Iraq at that time. And I sent him this amplifier in Iraq. Boy, that was a challenge, I'm here to tell you. And then it went immediately on to Afghanistan. This amp has been in use in Iraq, Afghanistan, this one here. Iraq, Afghanistan, Dubai, Texas, and Idaho. So this one holds a lot of sentimental value to me, this box here. Yeah. BBI made for Mr. Black, 3/19/14 at 2 p.m. Yeah. I couldn't retune him. Fixed 12/14/21. He had a wire pop off of this thing. That's what happened. And then I got a little bit of his ashes painted into the cabinet here. But I can't let this one go. This one is probably going to get wrapped up in plastic and put up on a shelf. I had to completely disassemble that box and clean it. It was so full of dirt and dust, Afghani, Iraq dust. And what when we were down there, I asked him, so what happened to the OG 4-pill? He goes, I had to leave it. Apparently at some point or another they boxed up all his shit after he got hurt in Afghanistan. They boxed up everything and they returned it all to him. Well, this was sitting at his house. I found this in all of his stuff after he'd passed. So, make a long story short, I'm keeping this one. This one's mine, and I don't give a crap. Anybody can suck my damn dick. I don't give a shit. No, it's staying here. This one, on the other hand, back to the topic at hand, this one can go. This one's got to go find a new home. The family has developed some, well, anyhow, the family really would like to see the proceeds out of this. That's all I'm going to get into that about. So I told him, I said, hey, things are being what they are. We've got to go out and we've got to ask a reasonable price for it. And we're going to take $5,000 or whatever serious offer that you want to give for this box. I mean, we're open to offers. Don't hesitate to call me, but I mean, it's got to be serious. Don't call me up and say, hey man, I'll give you $3,000 for it. It's worth way more than that. You and I both know it. It's a pretty one-off box, and it is badass. Let's go on in here a little bit. See, if it was up to me, they would all be building big giant jumbo cabinets like this. It's just much easier to work on them. And it's not as cluttered. And with this big giant hands that I have, yeah, it's literally, I'm covering up most of a 16 pill with just my hands. It's a lot easier for me to work on this stuff. But that's not what people want. They want small, compact, blah, 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 blah. So, well, gentlemen, that's where we're at. And I'm done. I am signing out on this. It still smells like him. That's the thing. So when I turned the fans on, I was playing with it just a little bit ago to check it before we went and started shooting the video. I'm like, geez. I have been dealing with this now for almost 5 months. Well, over 5 months now. And I'm ready to move on. And this is the last one. Period. If you are interested in getting this piece of equipment, call or text me. The first one to do so gets it. That's it. Now, shipping being what it is today, I spent all day today interviewing new shipping companies because I just recently had to terminate my shipping company that I've had for 7 years. Being what shipping is today, the price of fuel being so high, and things are what they are, I have seen since the beginning of the year a 40% increase in shipping costs. Please keep that in mind. So when you call and say, hey, it's going to be, I would like to buy it, and I say, cool, the shipping to, just pulling it, Maryland, let's say, just pulling a state out of my ass or a place out of my ass, Boston, Maryland, or whatever, it's going to be $300 because of its size. Don't freak out. That's literally how much it costs, okay? So I'm just putting that out there on front. You'll get the amp, the appropriate size power plugs. You're going to get the remote. Signed by me, built by me, done by me. Gentlemen, on that note, I'm out. I've lost all enthusiasm for this. I am so ready to be done dealing with his estate, and I want new memories. And I know nobody's ever going to be able to replace him, but in the same breath, it's time for this fat kid to move on and just move on. So, the last Mr. Black equipment for sale. I've got a Cobra 29 derail comp radio that's built, that's sitting over here that's left, but I'm pretty sure I got a friend of mine that'll buy that here pretty quick. So, other than that, I'm done. Call me if you're interested. Thank you, gentlemen. Big thanks to my Patreons, and I thank all of you, and I'll see you. Click, click.